Okay. Well, I think I'm ready now. Oh, are you? Are you ready? I hate you. It's always a lot worse when I actually have friends who show up here because I feel like I'm being judged more by them than anything else. Did you say, where are my friends? How dare you? The venerable InfoSister, ladies and gentlemen. Where are your friends? Well, welcome. Thanks for coming out at noon. I know you could all be doing more important things like, I don't know, eating right now. Or escape rooms. Let's go down a list of all the cooler things you could be doing than sitting here right now. Would my friends like to start? Sleeping, drinking,
getting a root canal,
getting an autopsy. Well, welcome. I'd like to thank all of you guys for coming out. This is not a fluffy talk. If you are offended by random drops of bad language, diatribes against management, individual people against whom I have vendettas, then maybe this isn't the talk for you. But if you like that kind of stuff, welcome. My name is Danny Akoski. I am a senior technical account manager at Gigamon, and they're actually okay with me giving this talk. Right? Yeah. Give a round of applause for Gigamon, everybody. I don't know that they actually read the abstract. They might have just glanced over it. And I say this up front. It's important that I say what I do and who I work for, because you're about to hear a lot of shitty stories that happened to me through my security career. And they might get you down a little bit. They might even depress you a little at certain points. But I am still here. I am giving this talk. I have an amazing job for an amazing company. It can end up okay. So let's just get that out of the way. It's not all doom and gloom. And one of the reasons why I persevere and I keep going is because that's my boy. That's Jackson. Jackson is actually missing his first tooth. Not because of age. He's only 4. He busted his face on a slide, which I was super proud of. He actually got like a 20 spot from the tooth fairy because I was like, that's just a badass way for the first tooth to go. It's not $1. It's insulting. I don't want him to be 18 years old and go, really? Cheap ass. So that's Jackson in our favorite Sunday thing of stuffing our faces with donuts, because he's got the metabolism and I fucking clearly don't. So this is Tim Malcolm-Vetter. I admire Tim a great deal. If you are into anywhere near red teaming or just in general, he'll hate me for saying this, thought leadership. Tim is a really great guy, but he tweeted this the other day. He has a point here, right? He has a point of, this is a really small community. And we are told, time and time again, not to burn bridges. Don't rock the boat. Leave gracefully. Don't talk shit. Things went bad. That's just sweep it under the rug, persevere, move on. Fuck all that. There is a time and there is a place for that, most assuredly. You shouldn't be burning every single bridge that you have, but if somebody has wronged you, if some company has fucked you over, too often we are told to just ignore it. Negative unemployment, don't worry about it. Don't burn bridges. You'll be amazed at how many times you have to talk to these people again. And a lot of us can't. Some of us work in government spaces, also relatively small-ish community, and we don't want to, or we don't want to be, or maybe we haven't been around as long, right? We don't have the quote-unquote clout to say these kind of things. Neither do I. I just tend not to give a fuck to most people. I have done this security-wise for about seven or 8 years. Before this, I was in general purpose IT. And being in security is pretty much like switching careers almost. Like I was doing networking stuff and help desk stuff, and it was a fire hose. It still is. 8 years in, 7 years in, it is still a fire hose. But the reason I wrote this talk is I think, a pretty interesting trajectory in that in those 7 years, and 7 years is not a long time. You're how old, down there? How old are you? Yeah. 11, right? So still, not really, even 11 years isn't that big a span of a time. But I've been riffed or fired 4 times. So I've riffed 3, fired once. Twice from the same company. That's the first story I'm going to tell. So this is primarily, I have some war stories that I'm going to tell. And I know we all like to hear about other people's fail stories. You guys hear a lot about successful things, and there are a ton of blogs and a ton of talks about how to break into this industry. And they're all amazing. People like Hacks for Pancakes, right? Leslie does so much work with that. Amanda, InfoSuck, does so much work with that. Lots of work in the mental health community. But every so often you like to see shit on fire, and that's why I'm here. I am nothing if not everybody's cautionary tale. And yet I'm still here. I've divided this up the only way I know how, and kind of the best way for me, in stages. 3 different stages, all highlighted by Bad Religion lyrics. So this is how we start. This is how we start of when you first get into security and you realize how fun this shit is. It is so much fun. Who's ever been like help desk and just installing software all day? Yeah, right? That's not fun. How many times can you install Microsoft Office before you want to fucking hang yourselves? Like, that's not fun. That's not sexy. Hacking. Ooh, hacking is sexy. And they built a whole industry around this to pay us money to do these things. And herein lies one of the first lessons of when you rely on your paychecks for things that you love doing. They always say, if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Those people are fucking high. That is not right. For some people it is. Some people that have a thicker skin than me. But when you tie up how you support your families with who you are as a person and what you love doing, that shit gets dicey really quick. But I went full bore. I wanted to conquer the world, right? My very first SOC gig was a lesson in how not to do shit, and I'll cover that a little bit later, I think, maybe. But I want to tell you the story about my very first real security gig. And I drank the Kool-Aid. So during that first SOC gig, which he's not here today, but a big thank you to my buddy Jamie Wick. Wick is the one who got me into all this, for better or for worse. And sometimes I thank him, sometimes I curse him. Really depends on the hour. Today I'm thanking him right this moment. And one of the first companies I ever heard about was Mandiant, right? Everybody heard of Mandiant in here? Everybody not here? Okay. How could you not? Like APT, all the things. And I was a big fan, right? From the time I was a little wee baby SOC analyst. Big fan. I read and pretty much watched everything Kevin Mandiant ever wrote. The SOC I worked in used Mandiant Redline, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but this looks fucking awesome. And the more I kind of got to know Mandiant, and I'm not talking shit about Mandiant, right? The one thing that I've given this talk a couple different times, and through different iterations, I felt like I was trashing everybody in every company directly, and it's not that. When it gets down to the micro level of it, it's about the people that you're working with. So I'm not directly talking shit on Mandiant, except for one dude, and I'll bring him up later. It's funny, one of the first times and only times I met Kevin Mandiant, I shared an elevator with him and Travis Reese, who was the chief operating officer or whatever. I was fanboyed out, right? I was like, oh God, it's Kevin. Oh, fuck, it's Kevin. Kevin, hey. He's like, fuck, who is this? I said, I've seen all your videos. He's like, oh, fuck, which ones? So I said, oh, I saw all of them. But so Kevin is great. He was one of the first guys I ever heard talk about, it's not if, but when, right? It's not about prevention anymore. It's like, you're going to get popped, but it's just when and how are you going to deal with it? And I was like, I want to work for that guy. That guy knows what's going on. So I jumped into this, right? And I applied at Mandiant. I think I worked at a SOC for 3 months before I did that. Right, yeah, exactly. So I could do it. He's like, oh no, why did you do that? Well, why did they interview me? It's really their fault. Suckers. So, and I'll get to this later about daring greatly, but I was like, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to fuck it. So I applied at Mandiant, and I don't know why they talked to me at all. And I got through the recruiters, which, as we all know, isn't really that hard. Like really taking candy from a baby and then beating them with it. But I got through, and they're like, okay, you know some stuff. And, no, I don't, but all right, I'll go. And I finally get the interview, and I remember I was working some networking gig for Foot Locker Corporate. and they scheduled it at noon. So we had this it was like some CIA fucking TV show. I'm in like this basement garage in the dark and on my phone so nobody sees me. And the person who came to me, my mentor later, was the interviewer. Her name is Jen Ayers. And she is the one to blame for me being up here right now, honestly. Because I got on the phone and she was like, okay, tell me about DNS. Fuck. I was like, well, DNS is just this thing that does names on the internet. She's like, all right, cool, bye. 12 minutes. That interview was 12 minutes long. I said, oh man, that hurt here and here. Oh fuck. Have you guys had like those interviews where you're just like, please make it stop, and like 10 years later you're in bed going, oh, okay, I'm gonna relive this again. Over and over. Hey, what about that other thing in like 3rd grade? Remember that too? Douche. That was that. That was Mandiant. However, silver lining, I emailed Jen directly. The brashness of this little asshole, that was me. I said, listen, I know that probably didn't go well. It's my analyst brain figured that out. Didn't go well. I was like, but I'm going to work for you. I am going to work for Mandiant. That's all I want to do. Because this is the first company I ever believed in the people, and I'm going to work there. What do I have to do? And Jen, holy shit, if you were a manager in the audience, I want you to take a lesson from this, or just anybody that aspires to have some kind of hiring authority. She responded, and she was like, okay, asshole, let's see what you do. She was like, I want you to study these 8 billion things. I want you to study reverse engineering. I want you to study incident response, threat hunting. I want you to fucking read all of these books. And I was like, oh no. Okay, me and my big mouth. So I started a OneNote notebook. And I shared it with her. I said, hey, listen, I hope you're serious, and maybe check in once in a while, and if I'm on the wrong track, you know. And she had no reason, right? She's in California, I'm some little asshole in Pennsylvania. She had no reason to do this. And yet I talked to her probably at least once every 2 weeks on the phone. Hey, how's everything? Like we were friends. Unheard of. To this day, I still wonder why she did that, why she saw that. And one day, about 2-3 months later, I remember I was like shopping at a farmer's market and some shit, and she called me and she's like, hey, it's a Saturday. I was like, hey Jen, what's up? She goes, when are you gonna sack up and come talk to us again? Clutches pearls. Oh my. Well, I guess pretty soon. She goes, all right, now you're going to come down to Alexandria in Virginia. You're going to sit and talk to us at the Mandiant headquarters. Okay. Yes, ma'am. And I thought I had it, and I went down, and I'm sitting in the lobby, and there's the big Mandiant sign, and so Kevin like walking in the bus. Oh, that's Kevin. Finally, Jen comes out after what seemed like 6 hours. It was like 15 minutes. And I get in the room, and it's Jen in the middle. It's a little circular table, a little small, really cramped conference room. It was her. I forget the guy's name, and I wish I remembered it because I want to thank him for actually making me feel like I was about to get the gig. And then I talked to another woman. Her name is Shannon Battaglia. And Shannon is amazing. She's one of the smartest women that we have in the entire industry. And I thought she'd be the easy one because she's very sweet. She's very nice. She's very quiet the whole time. And Jen's just sitting there like, all right, asshole, let's see what you can do. Licking her chops, going, oh, he's going to fuck this up. Oh, this is going to be bad. So the first guy, he quizzes me on networking. And I fly through it. I'm like, yeah, proxy server this and X forward for this. I know all this shit. He's like, all right, good. And then he gets to Shannon. Shannon does the host stuff, which I knew nothing about. And a couple times I've run into this at Mandiant. They do not let you off the hook when you're in person. They will just keep cutting you and beating you. And the beatings will continue until morale improves. And Shannon just decimated me. I was like, oh, I didn't see that shit coming. I physically was injured when I left. And yet, my brazenness again, nailed it. Fucking nailed it. I should have that offer before I get back in my car. 2 months later, a couple emails to recruiting. I remember the most flippant reply is like, yeah, no, sorry. So, okay. Crack the knuckles a little bit. I'm going a third time. And Jen's like, listen, I'll be honest, you didn't do great. Keep trying. Thank you, Jen. I tell her every time I give a version of this talk so she can watch it, and I guarantee she never fucking does. Why would she want to relive that? And I said, okay, I'm going to go for this again. So I studied, and I studied. OneNote notebook, fucking building virtual labs, all this shit, because I really wanted it. Not any other company, I wanted Mandiant. And I ended up getting like some SOC gig at SunGard in Philly, and that was cool. It was a really great team, and I got to learn a little bit. And it's even worse because they were all really nice. It's probably one of the best teams I ever worked on. They were all super like encouraging and let you learn a lot of things. I was there for like 2 months. I was there for third shift. So I'm going to be here for a while. This is great. My team is great. My manager is great. And it's third shift, and I'm walking down Broad Street in Philly. I got a phone call from California, and I was like, oh, fuck. And it's Jen. And Jen says, I got the perfect job for you. Come work for us. And I was like, I just started. Like, that's not gonna look great. She was like, do you want to work third shift at a SOC? You want to work for fucking Kevin? And I was like, well, you put it that way. Fine. She has a way of just really cutting right to the point. And I get on, about a week later, I get on the phone to have this interview, and it's Jen. And I got my hopes up too, because now I was like, I got some weight under my belt, I can really do this. And I get on the phone, and it's her and this dude named Justin Harvey. And Justin's a really great guy too. I think he's at FusionX or something now. And Justin's like, all right, unfortunately, and I was like, oh, this is starting out really great. Unfortunately, the job you're applying for is no longer remote. You'll have to move to California. And I was like, all right, well, this was nice. Third time's the charm. All right, I guess I'll see you. And then Jen's like, just interview like you're going to take the job. Interview like you're going to get it, right? Just, if nothing else, it'll be good practice. She's texting me on the side. And like, I was about to get married, right? And I was like, I'm not fucking moving to California. I can't do this. This is a real bummer. However, and I encourage all of you to do the same thing, even when you think defeat is imminent, just do it. Just fucking go for it, because you never know what's going to happen. As evidenced by this. I did it. I talked to him for a full hour, and he was more like managerial type, and he asked me about like processes and general like structure, and I thought I did really well. Jen calls me 5 minutes later. She goes, all right, never mind. You got the job. You can stay remote. I was like, oh. I left that call thinking I wasn't going to get the job, and I finally got in. I got the job at Mandiant. 3 tries later, 6-7 months later, I got it. And man, it was awesome. I drank up everything I could. I worked for some great teams. And then I bought Mandiant. And then I got laid off. I was there for probably 6 months. Right? You feel the air get sucked out of the room. Like, because the reason I tell that whole odyssey is because in the end, after 6 months, it's a check mark on a balance sheet. Right? Hey, last in, first out. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. I want to make sure I have enough time to actually get through all this. So that happened, and like, when you're at Mandiant, you get every year, so Kevin's a big football fan, and you get like a Mandiant helmet, right, when you're there for 1 year, and I was like 4 or 5 months shy. I was like, that's okay, I didn't earn it, whatever. Skip over a couple gigs. I ended up being unemployed for a little bit, and then I get an email from somebody who used to work with at Mandiant. She goes, hey, this is the other thing. My kid was just born. I had no job. I had just gotten fired from somewhere. And my old boss, Jackie, she's like, hey, would you ever want to come work for us again? I was like, boy, would I. I never wanted to leave the first time. I used to joke, well, I'm remote. Good luck getting rid of me. No, they'll fucking find a way. So this is the second time at Mandiant. And it went much better. I actually lived my dream that time. I went, I interviewed, and I had a job offer as I was on the train coming home. And I was like, hell yeah, I'm back, do-over, mulligan, let's do it. And I was there for almost a whole another year. If you get a meeting invite that you're not expecting from somebody that you don't work for, start putting out your resumes. I got a meeting invite about a year in. And it was my boss, another boss, and I got on the call, and then a third call-in user. That user is always HR. I got riffed again. I wasn't doing so well. And I said, a second fucking time? Are you serious? This is where we get into kind of the shitty part of the business, right? getting some intuition about what's about to happen to you. Pay attention. We all do very technical things, right? We are all very, very talented. We do a lot of damn near impossible things on most days. But a lot of us don't pay attention to the actual politics of the business. Know what your structure is like. Pay attention to those little reorganizations, because they will bite you on the ass. No matter, and this is something that I've proven time and time again in my career, something that I've experienced. No matter how good you are at what you do, no matter how much your immediate management chain loves you, there's somebody with a red pen and a spreadsheet, never met you, has no problem with you, but you either make too much money or your position just shouldn't exist anymore. That shit happens all of the time. Be prepared for that. There's no way you're talking yourself out of it, right? You're gone. When that happens, it's somebody who never met you made that decision. And I remember being on this phone call, and it was the same woman who had laid me off the first time. Her name was Anna, lovely woman, Australian accent. And she was like, well, Mr. Akatsuki. I was like, I think we can dispense with the formalities at this point. I think we've gotten to know each other pretty well. You've almost ruined my life twice. Let's call each other by our first names. You shithead. Now, business decision, that's nice. However, another management thing. If you are in management, do not ghost your employees in their time of need. I still have a manager I work for who I have never heard from since I got laid off a second time. That shit will stay with you. And be careful who you ghost and who you are responsible for. And I get that there are legal things and things like that, but when you ghost your employees for 2 months and don't give them any business to do and then think that they're not going to know what's up. I remember being out front of it was Mandalay Bay in Vegas during DEF CON, and I finally got my manager on the phone. His name is Ron Bouchard. By the way, fuck you, Ron. And I was like, Ron, I haven't had any billable work for a while. What's up, man? He goes, don't worry. No way this will happen to you again. You'll have a gig, you'll have a new manager, it's fine. That Wednesday I got home, that's when this call happened. And he has the balls on the phone to say, hey, maybe third time's the charm. You putz. Fucking Ron. This is the first time this talk is recorded, by the way, so. And I still don't give a fuck, Ron. So that's fine. That was a huge lesson in how to handle the impossible. There's no way I would have thought I would have got riffed twice. But, it happened, so just something to watch out for. The second story. This actually happened in between the two Mandiant things. And this is a lesson in cover your ass. Get it in writing. If you don't have it in writing, it never happened. When I left Mandiant the first time, I got a gig at GE Capital down in New Orleans. Again, great team, very thankful for being able to meet those people, thankful to have that job. And then my wife got pregnant with the little dude you saw up there earlier. My first one, so I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I get a phone call. We're out. I love this story because it's like every fucked up thing that could have happened. We're out on my wife's birthday, 8 months pregnant, while she's getting a massage. I'm in a little coffee shop enjoying life in New Orleans and get a phone call. Hey, Danny, you should really hop on the conference call right now. Fuck. When you hear that, hey, you should really get on this call. Pucker up, Buttercup. Shit's about to go down. They're divesting. We're going to be cutting workforce. We're divesting. We're consolidating verticals and all the fucking management speak, right? And when you hear this phrase, this is one of the most important phrases that you should always remember. One of the reasons I'm giving this talk is this phrase. When you hear the phrase, do what's best for your family, start out. Start writing up a good resume, brush that stuff off. But also remember that they said that to you, right? Because in part of the abstract, if anybody happened to read the abstract, I don't know why you would, but this is about an industry that preaches loyalty with one hand, right? Drinking the aforementioned Kool-Aid, being a team player, taking one for the team, working when you shouldn't be working, and then slapping you with the other one. It happens all of the time. So they said, hey, my bosses were said, no harm, no. This came directly down from the CISO. No harm, no foul. Don't worry about it. They had paid relocation. They had paid a little bonus to come because of a lower salary. And they said, don't worry about it. This is unforeseen. We understand. We're sorry. If you find a gig, that's fine. And about a month went by because I gave them 4 weeks. I said, hey, I'm going to go back to Jersey. It's fine. And I'm sitting, fucking HR. I'm sitting in the outbrief meeting, the exit interview, which, by the way, you really should do those. If you're in part of making those decisions, have an exit interview. Find out why your people are leaving. It's important. I sit down and I remember her name is Alina. Oh, Alina. I sit down. She goes, so you have a check for us? So, check? She goes, yeah, you owe us $13,000. And I said, whoa, okay, let's have a chat about that. And I said, well, no, I've up from the CISO on down. They said it was okay. To this day, I get collection calls from who they sold that debt to because I did not get it in writing and it never existed. And all of a sudden, I couldn't get anybody to return my phone calls of people who approved me not having to pay it back. So I still get collection. They'll never get it if you're watching it. So it's not about shirking responsibility. It's about getting what you were promised, right? So get it in writing. That's the important lesson here. 13,000. They were magnanimous and said, we'll knock it down to 8. Oh, really? Eat a dick. See how we doing on time. We're good on time, I think. All right, good. This is the first time this particular story has been told on tape. I've given a couple dry runs of this at conferences that didn't record things, and thank God, because I was very, very drunk during those conferences. By the way, if you're ever in Philly around Halloween time, go to PumpCon. It's amazing. They just give you shots as you're talking, so you rant more. I'm a little more put together today, a little bit. Who here who wants to raise their hand? Who's ever been fired? Okay, good. Not good. I mean, sorry it happened. But I mean, good for raising your hand, right? I had never been fired. Not for lack of trying. I've done some supremely stupid shit in my career. But I had never been fired, and I kind of took pride in that. This is another lesson in getting it in writing. This one's a doozy. So after GE, I moved back to New Jersey with my very pregnant wife, who did not like having to move again. But I was like, I'm going to work at NASDAQ, right? I worked downtown Manhattan, worked at NASDAQ. Finance is a whole different animal. And I was fired from there. And it has taken me, my son's almost 4 years old, it's taken me, from the first time I said that out loud to anybody else, it was about 3 years before I was willing to actually, because it's embarrassing, right? You can't help but feel like, fuck, I did something wrong, or and maybe you did. I mean, maybe you punched the boss's daughter. I don't know. Don't punch people. It's not nice. But maybe you fucked up and maybe you got fired for a reason, whatever. But a lot of times it happens and it wasn't even your fault, such as this time. And I remembered, that day from that day to now is just profound as shit that now I'm telling you all this story and it's going to be recorded on video. Cause I remember sitting on a train platform. I took the train the wrong way, a half an hour, crying my eyes out in the rain because I have to go back and tell my very pregnant wife, whose best friend I flew up for her baby shower a day ago, who is still in my kitchen, that your husband just got fired. And I remember being on the phone with Jen and I was like, I'm going to jump on the fucking train tracks right now. She was like, no, you're not. You're going to be fine. And you're never going to believe that in the moment. So while I was at NASDAQ, while Jen was pregnant, she had a lot of baby doctor appointments. To which I said, hey, can I leave a little bit early? Can I go? My immediate manager was like, yeah, it's perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. You got to leave a little bit early. That's fine. Get it in writing. Fast forward 2 months, I get a phone call. Hey, Danny, can you come down to HR's office? I was like, oh yeah, sure. La-da-da. We'll go down. Sitting there is my manager, his boss, and HR. You're being let go. Fucking what? Never had a performance review. It only been 2 or 3 months. Never had a performance review. Never had so much as a bad word said to me about anything. And they said, you've been gone an awful lot, and it's being noticed by top management, and we don't think you're as skilled as we thought you were, so you're gone. Yeah. No severance. Nothing but a cardboard box, and hey, can we call a car service for you? Oh, fuck out of here. So I was like, what the hell just happened? This is an example of toxic leadership, and I'm happy that I had this lesson happen to me because I don't want it to happen to anybody else. Make sure whatever little situations you have going with your management, you get that shit in writing. One person complained, and it went all the way up the chain, and all of a sudden, I'm not showing up at work. No, it's not like that at all. But they said, you're gone. And New York is an at-will employment state. I had probably no legal grounds to stand on, but I was looking for a lawyer anyway. Here's how I know I didn't fuck up. Once they heard I was looking for a lawyer, NASDAQ, please pay attention to this because I hope somebody calls you on your shit too. I got a phone call funny enough, during my wife's last OBGYN appointment. And they're like, we heard you were looking for counsel. And I was like, well, yeah, because this is fucked up. And they went into a diatribe about how I was wrong to do that, how I'll never win, and they'll never admit to this phone call. And I was like, listen, I'm kind of busy right now, so can you kindly fuck off? And they're like, well, it's not really the reason why we called. We're going to pay you for 3 more months, and we're going to give you full benefits. And of course, being a parent, a lot of us know you don't have the luxury of principles at that point. So you take the money and run. So I had to swallow my pride on that because I was wronged. And this is just me. I am, by all means, a privileged white male. I have a lot of things going for me that a lot of other people don't. And if that happened to me, I finally was able to feel a little bit of like, I got royally fucked. What's happening to other people out there? This is the lesson in watching out for each other, right? If you're in a position of power or you're in a team, watch out for each other. Call that bullshit out. Because that is systemic. It came from the top down and then it comes right from the bottom back up again. Break that chain eventually. That happened to me. I hope it never happens to you. But yeah, and then I got fun employment because then I went back to Mandiant, got the job offer, had 3 months from NASDAQ and my offer in the bucket, so I stayed home with my kid for like 3 months. It was awesome. In hindsight. Hindsight, it was fucking great. In the moment, seriously contemplating suicide on the train tracks. And that's not even a joke. I'm not even exaggerating that. I wanted to die because I thought they'd be better off without me because of how much I got fucked at that point. Just a little lesson. Kind of along with that. Don't make it about money. I've been in miserable gigs that they will throw. We are in a great industry. We have high in-demand skills that not a lot of people can do. Especially if you can do the technical shit and talk about it. Oh, sky's the limit. Be very, very careful. It is not about the money. One of the highest paying gigs I ever had was organizationally a dumpster clusterfuck fire from start to finish. Bad managers who straight up came and said, I don't want to be a manager, I'm just getting my paycheck. That sucks. If you feel like that and you're in management, get the fuck out now. Go back down, go do something else that you want to do. You have a responsibility to your team so that your team doesn't end up thinking that, oh, I just might go off myself. I spent a good part of my year at this particular company. I have a lot of friends there, so I'm not going to talk shit particularly about them. Bank of America. It's not always about the money. Really decide what you want to work on, how you want to work. Yeah, that's just a basic slide. It's just don't see dollar signs, man. A lot of times it's not really fucking worth it. So then we come to stage 2. This happened right about the time that I got done in the middle of the bank. You really I felt like this, have no control. You're not in command. You don't decide if you get to stay or leave. I mean, you can leave whenever you want to, but if somebody wants you to leave, you're done. So you really kind of feel, you have all these things coming at you. You have, and we all know this, we deal with the egos, the hours, discrimination, cult of personality, politics, acquisitions. All of that shit is beyond your control. And the more you try to control, the crazier you're going to drive yourself, right? You can only control what you do and how you influence the people around you. And make no mistake, you have influence. Don't think because you're like a bottom one analyst, or you don't even have a gig yet, or you don't think you know enough, or you have that imposter syndrome we'll talk about in a couple minutes here. You have something to contribute, right? That's power. And that's power that's going to last you a very long time. This is the only slide that I don't have a bad religion quote. Now I feel bad about it. But it really kind of encapsulated what I had done to that point. I built all this stuff up and it came all crashing down. And that shit gets really heavy because of what I said in the beginning. When you build your career around we're hackers as people, right? It's at our core. And when you fuck with that financially, like that gets super, super messy. So what are some of the signs of burnout, right? I encourage you all, if you haven't filed it yet, Amanda Berlin does amazing work with mental health in the hacker community. She has done more than I ever did. What was your Twitter again, Amanda? Okay, it's at Mental Health Hackers, I think? Yeah.
At Hackers Health.
At Hackers Health. See, you know. They're like, oh, I'm CEO. I don't have to know that shit. That's for marketing. So what are the signs of burnout? Well, clinically, shit ton. It's the medical term. Any or all of these. And the shitty part about burnout is it builds. It builds and it builds. You have one thing, maybe, I don't know, kind of pessimistic, and you feel, especially when you're siloed in your companies, take this to heart too. Silos don't do anything good for anybody. If your teams are supposed to be working together and they're not, that has reverberations you can't even conceive of. But then you get kind of pissed off about it, right? And then you're just fucking tired. You start forgetting things, and I used to be good at this. Like, I took a lot of pride because it's who I am. I used to be really good at this, and now I'm not. Well, fuck me, I'm gonna go raise goats. Start getting sick a lot. Here's the thing. This happened to me. Physical symptoms. Went to get physical, right? And the doctor's like, oh, you're gonna die in like 10 years. I was at least 50 pounds, 60 pounds every year. Oh, okay, how's that? Is that good? All right, I'm gonna try not to eat the mic. This fucking guy is like, this talk is making more sense as this goes on. I'm so burned out already. Fuck you people. So we get this a lot too. Shit, I'm coming up on time. But we all suffer from it. I still do, right? Don't sell yourself short. This is not unique to us, right? Who's ever like felt, God, I'm just the dumbest person in this room? Yeah, see? So judging by all those hands just went up, you are not alone, right? It happens to all of us. You're not unique to it, which means you can overcome it. So how do we deal with imposter syndrome? How do we deal with burnout from all of these stories I just told you, right? Jack Daniel does a lot of work on this, and he actually had a really great thing kind of open my eyes. He goes, when you're burned out with the work you're doing, take on more work. And I was like, what? Like fucking Jack's been drinking again. Does he ever stop? I don't know that he does. But it's got to be work worth doing. So how did I fight it, right? I created my own DEF CON group, DEF CON 610. I did some work in the mental health space here in our industry that Amanda has since done way more than I was ever able to do. It's got to be work worth doing. Start coming to cons like this, right? Leading villages, volunteering. That's how you can make sense of the world you're in. We're not all going to have awesome jobs. I love the job I have now. I love my boss. I love the team I'm on. But we don't all get to have that luxury. So you can take on more work, but it's got to be work worth doing. And this is one of the, I don't really do slides all that much, but does anybody not know what RIF means? Reduction in force, right? That is the nice way of saying, get the fuck out. Your job is no longer available to you. Well, that's weird because it was this morning. I know because I was doing it. Doesn't exist anymore. Or it won't in 90 days. Thanks, Amazon. So just some tips. I wrote this slide because there are some tips to go through on this. The stages of grief are real, right? And routine is everything. If you find yourself getting laid off, right? If you find yourself in just a city situation, start a routine. Take it from me and the overhang on my belt right now. McDonald's and video games all day is cool for a couple of days, not 6 months. You probably didn't make it happen. Probably. I told you a story about me getting fired. I didn't do that, but maybe you did something. I don't know. Take your beatings, right? And those are interviews. Even if you go into an interview thinking, I have no qualifications for this, remember the Mandiant story I told you. Whenever you think you're not qualified, I was not qualified, and I still went for it, and I got the job. So, again, I am nothing if not everybody's cautionary tale. Fucking do it. Twist the release valve, right? Let yourself feel those feelings. And most of all, man, don't be a dick. Don't be a dick to the people around you. Be aware of your colleagues and your peers and your friends who are going through the same thing, right? Empathy is something that I was about to say we're sorely lacking it, but I don't really believe that because I've met all of you wonderful people here today. And of all the hundreds of conferences I've been to already, the times I've got to speak at conferences and just hanging out in lobbies, I don't think we lack empathy. We just sometimes need to find it again. So just be aware of that. People are going through shit that you can't even fathom. What else did I go through? Oh, I just have a general slide on recruiters. Fuck recruiters. No, not all of them. Listen, they're more of a hurdle than anything else. Don't let yourselves get discouraged by getting jobs that you really shouldn't have been talking to the people for. Again, I've been on interviews where they just don't let you off the hook and just keep smashing you. And these recruiters don't really know. It's not their job to know what you do. It's not their job to know that you do threat hunting and not red teaming or red teaming. They just say, he knows computers. Let's get him in front of some people. That's their hang up. So, yeah. Yay, recruiters. Where am I at now? How much time do I have? Am I good? All right, cool. Oh, good. You're here forever. And then it comes to stage 3. We're almost done. Got a few more slides. All right? You do what you want. You know why? Because you are your own brand. At the end of the day, and if you leave here learning nothing or taking nothing, one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was from a very close friend of mine, my best friend, as a matter of fact, from the time I was little. The company you work for is your current long-term client. It's a business proposition. It is lucrative until it's not. It is mutually beneficial until it's not. No harm, no foul. If you're not comfortable, man, or if you're not getting challenged, fucking leave. But you are your own brand. You are responsible for how you enter this world. I say trust no one, but that's really mostly for recruiters. You know what? And I say that, I don't want you to think it's just like a blanket thing. I once had a recruiter, still in the industry, still at this little mini story real quick. And I had interviewed with them beginning of my career, and it went really well. I got a round 1. I was like, yeah, let's do this. It was before Mandiant. And then SunGuard came along, and I was like, all right, well, I'm going to take SunGuard instead. No harm, no foul. I emailed them a couple days ahead of time. I was like, hey, I'm not going to need the second interview. Like, thank you guys. It was awesome. Like, thank you for doing that, but I'm going to take something else. And then Mandiant happened, like, less than a year later. And I went back to him. I was like, hey, just wanted to follow up. Like, my old gig didn't work out. And the recruiter straight up told me, because you turned us down for a second interview, you will never get a job here. We will never even consider you. I won't even put you up because you didn't take the second interview. Fuck you. That is who says that to somebody? And I say these stories not to just vent for myself, although I love doing that, is that this shit exists. It exists, it happens, and it happens to people that don't want to talk about it or think that they can't talk about it, but it does. Blacklisting happens. But then you get somebody who comes up enough to be able to talk about it in public and call your bullshit. So thank you, Matt. And last but not least, really, it becomes a thing of them and us. It becomes our jobs, our management, our bosses. There are good ones. There are fantastic ones. There are superb ones. And I'm in there right now. Justin, if you watch this, man, I love you so much. I've finally found through all of this shit. You would think I would have been gone a very long time ago, either off packing boxes somewhere or dead, because a lot happened in the span of 7 years. And there are good ones. If I even think of jumping on Slack when I'm off, my boss reads me to riot act. He's like, get the fuck off. You have vacation, take it. And I love that man for that. So if you run into something like this, Sergio had a really great point here of, know your worth and don't take shit, right? If they're making you work weekends, if they're making you work off hours and you're just burnt out, it will have physical effects. Don't put up with it, and don't let your friends put up with it. We have to stick together. But then that comes to, we're not exactly all awesome. Like, we have a lot of infighting. We have a lot of sniping. We have a lot of egos here. And we should. We're all proud of what we do. But then you get things like Twitter, and things get all fucky, and suddenly everything's on fire. I'm a little hypocritical. I have some people blocked, but it's mostly because they're Nazis. I was blocked by this particular thought leader because I used the word drama. Not even about her. I just fucking blocked her. And I was a fan. And I was like, I actually did this. I emailed her and I said, hey, I'm really curious. Like, she's very, very popular. And I was like, hey, I didn't mean to offend you. And she goes, oh, well, you're just friends of people I don't like, so fuck you. Okay. Why are we eating our young? Like, why are we devouring ourselves? Knock that shit off. Like, we're all in this together. Every story that I told you today can happen to any one of you, and we need that support from each other. So why would we be dicks to each other? It just doesn't make sense. Unless you're a Nazi, then fuck you. There's somebody at this conference who has me blocked because of a disagreement. You can disagree without being disagreeable. And I see it too much. I love Twitter. Don't get me wrong. Twitter is what has been the best thing for my career, for getting to know all of you, for getting to do conferences like this. But just be aware of people are going through problems that you can't even fathom. So let's be a little bit nicer to each other. And I think this would go an awful long way. This is a great quote. If you haven't read this speech by Teddy Roosevelt, it's great. I think it's called The Man in the Theater or something. Oh, The Man in the Arena speech. For everything that I just told you, from standing on train platforms to getting turned down for my dream job only to lose it, to owing money I'll never pay back, to getting shit on by like thought leaders, like it happens. For all of this, I am still here and I love what I do. I love getting to hang out with you guys. I love my bosses and my job. And for all of it, I fucking wouldn't trade a thing, because you have to really go through some shit to kind of find the gold at the end. So don't let it discourage you. If nothing else, every last one of you, if you find yourself in any situation resembling what I've talked about today, you can DM me. If you have nobody else, direct message me. I'll talk to you about it. And be that for somebody else. and I think we'll all be a lot better off for it. So that's pretty much it. I have talked a lot. I'm on Twitter way more than is healthy. If you're ever in the Pennsylvania area, DEFCON 610, I write some stuff sometimes. I also write a lot for Gigamon. Yeah, I'm happy with my life. I'm happy with my gigs. I'm happy with all of you. So I hope it leaves you on a good note. But yeah, sometimes it's shitty, sometimes it's not. And I hope you all go out and be nice to each other. So thank you for having me.